I'm 77 years old. My wife died 14 months ago, and 3 days before she passed, she told me something that changed every memory I have of our marriage. Her name was Catherine. We were married 50 years and 2 months. I thought I knew her completely. I was wrong. I'm telling you this because I don't have anyone else to tell, really. Our daughter lives in Oregon with her own family. She calls every Sunday. We talk about the weather and her kids and whether I'm eating properly. I don't want to burden her with this, and my friends from work, the ones still alive, we don't talk about things like this. We talk about medication and the news and how expensive everything is now. So I'm telling you, someone needs to know what I've learned. And maybe it matters to you in a way it can't matter to me anymore. Catherine and I met in 1972. I was 27, working as a surveyor for the county. She was 24, a secretary at the municipal building. I'd come in every week to file reports, and she'd always have my paperwork ready before I even asked. Efficient. That's what I noticed first. Then I noticed her hands, the way she'd tuck her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. We married in 1973. Small wedding. Her parents, my mother, a few friends. We honeymooned in the Poconos for 3 days because that's what we could afford. It was enough. Everything felt like enough back then. It was enough back then. We built what I thought was a good life. I worked. She worked until our daughter Anne was born in 1978, then stayed home for 6 years before going back part-time at the library. We had a small house on Maple Street, the one with the green shutters, paid it off in 2001. We took one vacation a year, usually somewhere we could drive to. Maine a few times, Virginia Beach, once to Tennessee to see the Smokies. I thought we were happy, not ecstatic, not like the movies, but content, solid, the kind of marriage where you know what the other person is going to say before they say it, where you have a routine, and it doesn't feel suffocating, it feels safe. I thought I was a good husband. I provided. I didn't cheat. I came home every night. I mowed the lawn and fixed things when they broke, and remembered our anniversary. Most years I remembered our anniversary. What I didn't do was ask questions. There was this pattern in our marriage that I didn't see until it was too late. Catherine would start to tell me something real, something about how she felt or what she was thinking about, and I'd listen for maybe 30 seconds before my mind would wander. I'd start thinking about work or something that needed fixing in the garage or what was on TV that night. She'd notice, she'd stop mid-sentence sometimes and just say, "Never mind." And I'd say, "No, what? Tell me." But she wouldn't. She'd just smile a little and say it wasn't important. This happened hundreds of times over 50 years, maybe thousands. I stopped counting the moments I didn't pay attention because I wasn't counting them at all. My friend Robert, I worked with him for 22 years. He told me something in 1998 that I didn't understand then. We were on lunch break, sitting in his truck eating sandwiches his wife had made. He looked at the sandwich, tuna fish on wheat bread cut diagonal, and he said, "I don't think Ellen knows who I am anymore." I asked what he meant. He said, "I think she makes me tuna sandwiches because she made me one 30 years ago." And I said I liked it, but I don't like tuna fish. I never really did, and I don't think she'd know that about me if I told her now. I laughed. I actually laughed. I said, "Rob, just tell her you want ham." He didn't laugh. He just took another bite and stared out the windshield. Robert died of a heart attack in 2004. He was 59. Ellen sold their house 6 months later and moved to Florida to live with her sister. I went to the funeral. She looked so small standing next to the casket. I wanted to say something meaningful, but I just said I was sorry, and she nodded and thanked me for coming. I wonder now if she ever found out about the tuna fish. My daughter Anne, when she was 16, came to me one evening in 1994. I was watching television, some detective show. I don't remember which one. She sat down next to me and said, "Dad, can I talk to you about something?" I said, "Sure, honey," but I didn't turn the TV off. I didn't even mute it. She started telling me about some problem she was having at school, something with a friend or a teacher. I don't actually remember because I wasn't really listening. I was watching the TV and nodding and saying, "Aha." at what I thought were the right moments. After a few minutes, she stopped talking, just stopped mid-sentence. I didn't even notice for maybe 10 seconds. Then I looked over and she was staring at me with this expression I can still see perfectly. Not angry, not hurt exactly, just resigned. Like she'd confirmed something she already suspected. She said, "Never mind, Dad, it's not important." And I said, "You sure?" And she said yes, and went upstairs. I went right back to watching television. She's 47 now. We're polite with each other, warm even, but there's a distance there that I don't know how to cross anymore. When she calls on Sundays, we talk about surface things, safe things. I don't know the names of her friends or what keeps her up at night or what she dreams about. I know she likes her job as a dental hygienist and her son plays soccer and her husband got a promotion last year, but I don't know her. Not really. And I think she decided a long time ago that I didn't want to. Music. There was a couple who lived next door to us from 1985 to 2003, Paul and Doris Hoffman, married 43 years. You'd see them in their yard sometimes, working in silence, each doing their own thing. Paul would trim the hedges, Doris would plant flowers, and they'd go hours without speaking. One Saturday in 2002, I was outside washing my car and I saw them in their driveway. Doris was crying. Not dramatic crying, just tears running down her face while she held grocery bags. Paul was standing there looking at her like he didn't know what to do. Like he was facing a problem he didn't have the tools to fix. I heard him say, "What do you want me to do, Doris? Just tell me what you want." And she said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, "I want you to already know." They stood there for another minute, then she went inside. He stood in the driveway alone for a while, then carried in the rest of the groceries. Doris died in 2003. Brain aneurysm. She was 68. Paul moved to Arizona 6 months later to live near his son. I helped him load the moving truck. He didn't say much. When we finished, he shook my hand and said, "Don't wait too long, Jim. Whatever it is you think you have time for, you don't." I didn't know what he meant. I said something about staying in touch, and he just nodded and got in the truck. I never heard from him again. Catherine was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in November 2024. The doctor said maybe 6 months. She had 4. Those last few months, I tried. I really tried. I took her to appointments and made her meals she couldn't eat, and sat with her while she slept. I held her hand. I told her I loved her, but there was still distance. This gap I'd created over 50 years that I didn't know how to close, even when I could see her running out of time. 3 days before she died, she was in the hospital bed we'd set up in our living room. Hospice had been coming daily. The nurse had just left. Anne was upstairs on a work call. It was just Catherine and me. She was lucid, which was rare by then. She looked at me and said, "Jim, I need to tell you something." I pulled my chair closer. I held her hand. I said, "I'm listening." And for the first time in maybe 50 years, I actually was. She said, "I've been lonely our entire marriage." I felt my stomach drop. My hands went cold. I started to say something, to defend myself or apologize, or I don't know what. But she squeezed my hand. She said, "I'm not trying to hurt you. I just need you to know. I've spent 50 years next to someone who never really saw me, who never asked what I was thinking, or what I was afraid of, or what I wanted beyond the daily routine." I said, "Catherine, she said, "I know you love me. I've never doubted that. But you loved me the way you'd love a comfortable piece of furniture. Something that was always there, that served its purpose, that you'd miss if it was gone but never really looked at while it was still in the room." She was crying. I was crying. Anne must have heard something because she came downstairs but stopped when she saw us and quietly went back up. Catherine said, "I tried to tell you so many times over so many years, and you'd start to listen, and then you'd drift away, and I learned to just stop trying. I learned to be lonely, quietly, because it seemed easier than fighting for your attention." I asked her why she stayed, why she didn't leave or say something sooner or demand that I listen. She said, "Because I thought that's just what marriage was. I thought everyone felt like this, and by the time I realized some people don't, We had Anne and a mortgage and a life built together, and it seemed too late to start over. We sat there for a long time. I told her I was sorry. I said it over and over, until the words stopped meaning anything. She said, "I know you are, but sorry doesn't give me back the 50 years I spent being invisible." She died 3 days later. March 14th, 2025, at 3:47 in the morning. Anne was there. I was there. Catherine's eyes were closed, and her breathing just got slower and slower, and then stopped. The last thing she said to me the night before she died was, "I forgive you." But forgiveness doesn't erase the loss. It doesn't give back what's gone. I can't fix this, that's what I've learned. I can't go back and listen better, or pay attention, or ask her what she's thinking. I can't have the thousands of conversations we should have had. I can't know who she really was beyond the surface I bothered to see. I thought I had time. Everyone thinks they have time. You think you'll pay attention tomorrow? You'll ask the real questions next week. You'll really connect after you finish this project, or get through this busy season, or retire, or whatever arbitrary milestone you've decided is when real life begins. But there is no later. There's only now. And now keeps becoming then, so quickly you don't notice until it's all used up. I lie in bed at night now, in this house that's too big for one person, and I try to remember the things Catherine tried to tell me. I can remember the moments, remember her starting to speak and then stopping, but I can't remember what she was trying to say. Those words are gone forever. Whatever she wanted to share with me, whatever parts of herself she tried to offer, I'll never know them now. I think about Robert and his tuna fish sandwiches and wonder how many other small ways Ellen didn't know him. I think about Anne sitting next to me asking for my attention and me giving her the television instead. I think about Doris crying in her driveway, wanting Paul to already know what she needed. I think about all of us building lives next to people without ever really seeing them. If I could go back, I would turn off the television. Every single time. I would put down the newspaper and the tools and whatever I thought was more important. I would ask Catherine what she was thinking, and then I would listen to her entire answer. I would ask follow-up questions. I would treat her like someone I was trying to get to know, instead of someone I assumed I already knew completely. What I didn't understand was that marriage isn't about being next to someone. It's about being with them. And those are very different things. I didn't understand that attention is the most valuable thing you can give another person. Not money or security, or even love, if that love isn't accompanied by genuine interest in who they are. I didn't understand that loneliness isn't just being alone. It's being invisible to the person sitting right next to you. If I could go back, I would treat every conversation like it might be the last one. Because eventually one of them will be, and you won't know which one until it's already over. I'm 77 years old. Catherine has been gone for 14 months. The doctor tells me I'm healthy, that I could have another 10 or 15 years, but I think about what I'll do with that time, and I come up empty. I call Anne every Sunday now, instead of waiting for her to call me. I ask her questions, and I listen to the whole answer. Sometimes she seems surprised. Sometimes I can hear her warming up a little, sharing more than she has in years. Sometimes I think maybe we can build something new, but mostly, I know I'm too late. The foundation we should have had isn't there, and you can't build on nothing. There are books that help me understand some of this after it was already too late. The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman talks about how we express and receive love differently. Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson explains the science of emotional connection. The Dance of Anger by Harriet Lerner taught me about the ways people try to communicate pain when direct words fail. I read them now and I see Catherine on every page. I see all the ways she tried to reach me and all the ways I didn't reach back. If this meant something to you, if you saw yourself in any of this, I'm glad I told you. That's all I can hope for now, that someone hears this and maybe turns off the television. Maybe asks the question, maybe pays attention before it's too late. You can leave a comment if you're willing. I read them. It helps a little to know these words went somewhere. There are more stories like this on this channel. Other people running out of time, trying to tell the truth before the chance is gone. I sit in my living room most evenings now, in the same chair I always sat in, and the house is quiet. The television is off. I'm listening, but there's no one left to hear.